Hello, Gemini. Happy birthday. I hope you're having fun. I hope you're celebrating. And I know that not all parts of the world are out of the woods in terms of the pandemic, but if you are somewhere where you can celebrate and make up for last year, I hope that you are doing so. And I hope you're with family and okay, Gemini. So, today, we're going to work on your tarot reading, your solar return tarot reading, and it'll be good for a year. So keep coming back. So if some of the themes we talk about are not yet happening, come back in a couple of months or in a few weeks and then see if things are starting to unfold. This is going to be mostly for Gemini Sun. However, it can still apply for Gemini Moon, Gemini Rising to a lesser degree. We're going to work on angular houses in terms of the astrological houses. So that'll be house 1, 4, 7, and 10. And I will explain what that means as we go along. And I'll be pulling various cards for each house. And that'll open up the theme and we'll be able to have more of a discussion about what to expect for the remainder of the year here for the next year. All right, but before we get started with the tarot, I want to just acknowledge, my goodness, Gemini, you have been going through a lot. There's a lot of astrological energy in your sign of Gemini. So whether you have the sun there, Venus, whatever planet or angle or aspect or what have you have in Gemini, specifically near the 18th degree, you're having like a major life revamp potentially, depending on what house it's in, depending on what house your Gemini is in your natal chart. But there's a significant amount of energy. For starters, we have Mercury in retrograde in Gemini. And then we have this beautiful solar eclipse happening on June 10th, which is going to be significant because it's joined with a North Node, which means it'll bring something within the theme of whatever house Gemini falls in your actual natal chart. So if you know your natal chart, you know where it falls, I would say, go look at that, do some research on the themes for that particular house, and it'll give you an indication of what's to come or what you can expect will be added into your life, like as a new, it can be anything. It can be a new relationship. If it's, for example, your moon or your sun are in the 7th house, it can be a new relationship coming in. And it doesn't have to be romantic necessarily, although usually it is. But it can also be a business relationship. If it's just depending on where it is in your house, astrological zodiac sign, it'll have different effects, different influences that will show up for you. Also, though, one thing to look out for, because Mercury is in retrograde in that sign of Gemini where you are supposed to be receiving a fated gift, if you will, there is an opportunity here, something to be mindful of. There is an opportunity here because we have Mercury in retrograde here that themes from the past will come up, and it'll almost feel as though here you are about to start something new in that area that the solar eclipse is affecting. So let's just use the 7th house as an example. So if you have, let's say, Gemini in the 7th house, then this solar eclipse may bring you a partner. It may also help you lose a partnership to eventually bring in the right fated connection for you. But because Mercury is in retrograde in that same sign of Gemini, before you can actually meet your fated partner, if you will, it might first bring things from the past. And it's almost as if the universe is saying, are you sure you're ready to move on into the future or spring ahead into new? Or do you want to still hem and haw with the past? And more specifically, because it is Mercury and Mercury is all about communication, I would encourage you, I would invite you to be very aware of any, old pesky communication, ways of communicating that are not necessarily helpful or beneficial for your future evolution. Because again, Mercury does bring up partners and people from the past, contracts from the past, former employers will come back looking for you, or opportunities to, join forces with people from the past may come up. But the way I'm sort of viewing this particular combination of planets and stuff happening in Gemini during the month of June is really the sense that it's twofold. Number one, people that come back, make sure, is it real? Is it just here to not test, but confirm whether or not the direction you want to go or the direction you were beginning to go towards, is there a temptation over here from the past kind of coming to mess it up? Is it self-sabotage coming along the way to say, hey, are you sure you're ready? I don't think you're ready. You know, things like imposter syndrome, for example, especially where it pertains to the way we communicate with others, how we express ourselves, what we are honest about in terms of who we are as individuals and how we express that and communicate that to others. So be very mindful that you don't unintentionally push away something really beautiful that could really be, it just set you up on a whole different trajectory than you've been on for the sake of following the past or falling back into something that's comfortable, particularly where habits of how you communicate in a not so efficient, effective, respectful way may come up, because this energy has a potential of bringing up gossip, miscommunication, information that's not necessarily true, but we hang on to, we make conclusions, right? We jump to conclusions. And that can potentially taint whatever beautiful gift you can receive through the solar eclipse. So just be mindful of that and really check in with your heart. Your heart space will never lead you astray. I mean, yes, of course you need to, put some logic into your decisions, right? Can't all be fairy tales and rainbows, although, I mean, why not? But in this case, you need some logic, right? Because Mercury is involved. And I just want you to be careful, my beautiful Gemini, because, and this is for anyone who has major placements in Gemini. So whether it's the moon, especially the moon, because the moon deals with our emotions, right? So if you are a Gemini moon, be very careful that you don't let emotion ruin something beautiful. So, and the sun could be things related to the ego, former employers, career, what have you. And so I just want you to be mindful, my lovely Gemini. And there is a lot of opportunity here for beauty, lots of opportunity for beauty. Again, it depends on where it falls in your chart, right? So if it falls in your first house, there's like an opportunity to, work on your physicality, your energy, your outlook in life. If it's in your second house, there's an opportunity for it to bring some new financial, discoveries. If it's your third house, that's your house. It's all about communication. If it's your fourth house, it's potential in a new home, finding a new home, and on and on. I will probably create another video with all the astrological houses, but today we're going to work on 4 of your astrological houses. Let's get started with your tarot portion of this read. And we're going to start with your first house. So we're going to see what tarot cards you got in there. But the first house, as a reminder, is about our stance in life, how we defend ourselves, the outlook that we have. It's how people see us also. It's the first impression we make. It really sets the tone for the entire chart, because whatever sign your rising is, it's pretty much your first house. So the sign in your first house will determine what sign every other house of the zodiac wheel is. And that's how, the themes, each house then gains that flavor of whatever sign is in there as a theme. And for you, you got and also physicality. I think I already said that, but just in case I didn't. So you got the 9 of Wands and the 2 of Cups in the first house. So that's very interesting. So let's see. Let's check this out for a little bit. So the Nine of Wands, I mentioned that the first house is a lot about how we defend ourselves, how others see us. So there's a potential here that you may be standing defiantly, almost like a little chip on your shoulder, or at least that's how others may be viewing you as it pertains to a love interest potentially, because we have the Two of Cups. And the Two of Cups can be about unions and partnerships with business partners, unions and partnerships with romantic partners. It's usually romantic. But the crux of it is a unified connection in whatever realm, right? So if you're getting this right out of the gate in the first house, number one, it's how others are experiencing your physicality, like literally how you are carrying your stance or how you're carrying the energy that others see in you is very defiant, very defensive. The Nine of Wands is a very defensive energy of this is my rule. This is how I want things to be, and this is how it is, period, end of story. You see how she's standing there like she knows who she is. And that's beautiful, especially when you're truly being attacked, or if someone's coming at you, or you need to set boundaries. This is beautiful. So this is another thing with the first house. It can very much speak of you setting clear boundaries when it comes to a relationship or a love interest. But it can also be the flip. It can be that you are creating a defensive barrier and block and not allowing this to come in. Or at least, even if that's not really what's happening, maybe that's how others are viewing you, right? Because it's the first house. Now, one thing I want to add to this, because it is in the first house of your physicality, is be very mindful that you're not allowing this block, whatever it is that you're blocking, or whomever it is you're blocking, whether it's a business partnership, a romantic relationship, or just people in general. This, by the way, this can also mean like a creative project that you're working on with someone. So there could have potentially been a clash that came up. Maybe you weren't happy with the ideas the person was bringing, or maybe your ideas, you felt like they were blocked. And so now you feel kind of defensive about it because you brought your baby meaning your creative project. And so physically, you're presenting as this person regarding this. So for some of you, this is going to be creative. For others of you, it's going to be, a business partnership but in general, what it's doing, it's what this is doing to your physicality and your presentation as an individual, because it fell in the first house. So we have to keep the themes in line here, right? So another thing too, though, when it comes to cups is also spiritual energy. So I'm very, and if you've been watching me, you know that I'll get occasional info here that's very specific to either one or two people here. I feel like for a very handful of you, maybe one or two, this is also about being highly disappointed in your spiritual community. Like something recently came up, maybe you weren't expecting, maybe during, because remember we had that lunar eclipse last month opposite Gemini in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is our ideals, our spirituality, the religions we follow, the spirituality we follow, the masters we follow, the gurus we believe in, the spiritual teachers, our teachers, us as teachers, right? So if you had some kind of conflict last month regarding the ideals or what you used to believe in, or something that you held close to your heart, whether it was a spiritual community, something or someone let you down, something could have been illuminated during that lunar eclipse, right? Or taken away. And sometimes that can result in taking away your faith. This just happened opposite you, Gemini, last month. And so it would make sense, whether it was in the spiritual realm or relationship, business relation, however it's happening for you, it would make sense that you would want to protect yourself and be in a defensive stance and set some boundaries. Maybe even just tuck away, isolate yourself from others and energies. Hold your own light. This is also an energy of, I don't need anyone. I can do this myself. Thank you very much, but no thank you. I asked you for help. You didn't come through. Now I'm taking that wand. I'm standing firmly. It's my baby. I'm going to do this. Ciao, Bella. So, so what I would just say to you, Gemini, again, I'm going to repeat, and of course we're going to unfold the reading, so we'll see where this goes. But just a reminder that you do have an abundance of an opportunity here with this new moon, solar eclipse new moon coming here on June 10th. Make sure that you're not blocking yourself so much that you're blocking the gift of that solar eclipse. It's what I said in the beginning, but this is even more of a double confirmation for that. Okay, let's move on to the fourth house. This is the next angular house. And the fourth house is everything to do with our home. So it's our literal edifice, the place that we actually live in, the building we live in, the four walls, the land, the what have you. But it's also about our roots, literal roots, figurative roots, metaphorical roots, our ancestry, our ancestors, those who came before us, our lineage. It's the lineage that will leave, the legacy that we'll leave behind. And it usually represents the mother as well, or the nurturing parent, the maternal parent, the nurturer of the two parents. Usually it's the mother, not always though, right? So for you, it could have been your father, it could have been an aunt, it could have been two dads, two moms, what have you. So for you, in the house of home, you've got the Three of Wands and the Queen of Swords. Couple of things here. So for some of you, there is a sense here with the Three of Wands of movement. Like you are ready to move to different scenery. The Queen of Swords is paired. So the Three of Wands on its own is all about looking forward to the next thing, the next house, the income property, the second home, the vacation home. This is about traveling beyond, going into different parts of the world, looking at your globe, spinning it and putting your finger wherever it lands, that's where you go, right? So it's very soulful. So this is the kind of movement that we make. It's a calling from our soul. So for some of you, and the wands equals our energy and our physicality as well. So some of you are literally physically moving to a different location, or very heavily starting to make the plans to move either abroad or quite a distance. This is a distance card for the most part. Now it's paired with the Queen of Swords, and the Queen of Swords is about intellect, communication, but the most powerful kind of communication. The Queen of Swords knows who she is, or he, because this is not a gender specific read, right? So the Queen of Swords knows what she wants. She goes after it. She makes the plan and she packs her bags, then goes. Here, paired, the way this is paired. That's not the Queen of Swords on its own, but because it's paired with the Three of Wands, that's what the Queen of Swords does in this scenario. So this is movement with much thought, much research. Some of you may be moving to teach. Actually, I just thought of a friend of mine who quite literally, that's pretty much what she's doing. She's actually, oh my gosh, okay. Okay, I have to let her know. Where are we? 2048. I have to let her know to watch this part. So, and she's a Gemini, so this is perfect. And quite literally, this can mean that. This can mean you preparing to teach, because this is the mastership, right? Like the Queen of Swords has mastered something and she goes to teach it. She communicates about it. She does the big TED Talks type of thing, right? So some of you may literally be moving or planning a move to go teach, or planning, but we're talking about the fourth house. Remember, the fourth house is home, roots, creating home and roots. So this can be about packing your bags to go teach something that will bring long-term effects to the people you are teaching, but also not just for them, but also for your longevity, your livelihood, what have you. Now, that's for just a handful of you, right? For others of you, this is about reconstructing your current home contracts. When I see the Queen of Swords, when I see her on her own, without the Three of Wands, when I see the Queen of Swords fall in the fourth house of home, ancestry, lineage, I also think about wills, estates, life insurance, even though that would probably be more of the eighth house. But because there's a parental element there, child parent element to the fourth house, I often also think about life insurance and those type of documents in this context when the Queen of Swords falls in the fourth house. So this could also be a reminder to get your affairs in order. And not in an eerie, scary way, like, ooh, get your affairs in order, something's going to happen. Not like that. It's more about it's fertile time to get those things done. Like it's a good time to do those things, right? Which is interesting because being that Mercury is in retrograde in Gemini, you could potentially utilize this time to go revise any of those documents. Some of you, when the way this is coming up in that fourth house, some of you have not updated wills or what have you since your last divorce. I mean, think about that. Have you updated everything? So this is a reminder to do so. Okay. Also, anything related, any contracts related to traveling abroad or any kind of travel in general. Maybe some of you are putting together a contract or some kind of business regarding travel, right? And really that this is for a few, maybe one or two of you are really thinking about starting some kind of business in travel or tourism or something along those lines that tie to your ancestry. Because remember, again, we have to bring it back to the fourth house. And the fourth house, again, I've already told you what that is. So some of you may maybe go back to your homeland, wherever your family is from, and you want to create something there that's meaningful, that has longevity, that has your legacy in it, right? Okay. So let's move on now to the seventh house. And the seventh house is usually everyone's favorite house. Everyone wants to know about the seventh house because the seventh house is all about relationships. It's about spouses. It's also about divorce. But basically it's contracts, it's legality. So usually we think of relationships in that area contractually, right? Like our marriages, our divorces, unfortunately. Anything that has to do with an agreement in a relationship. So you may not contractually have something signed, but you may have an agreement with another to be exclusive or be in a relationship or have a partnership. Like there is an agreement, whether written or not. There's like a mutual agreement there, a relationship agreement. That can be business, that can be romantic. It's also about any legalities, legal issues that can potentially come up for us. But the crux of the seventh house is balancing those aspects, right? And you've got the Queen of Cups and Two of Swords. Very interesting. You've got, so far you have a pronounced Cups and Swords. And the Queen of Cups on its own. And again, we have to bring it to the 7th house, and the 7th house is relationships, right? So the Queen of Cups is love, right? It's the full embodiment of a person able to give of themselves. Again, not gender specific, even though it's the Queen, this can apply to male energy, them energy, he, she, what, any energy. There is a sense here that you want to experience this level of soulful, spiritual kind of love or connection. Remember, this can also apply to your business partnerships. So you may be feeling this urge to merge in a way that's deeper, whether it's deeper love, whether it's deeper working relationships. There is an emphasis here in your 7th house of relationships. This kind of energy is going to take lots of importance. It's going to be of most importance for you this year, this solar return year. Remember, again, I said it in the beginning, this is energy this is a solar return tarot reading. It's not your solar return, because we're not reading your natal chart, but it is a solar return tarot reading. Therefore, you can come back to it throughout the year. Now, the Queen of Cups here is paired with the 2 of Swords. So Gemini, and I just noticed you have another 2 here. You have the 2 cups in the beginning, and then you have the 2 of Swords. So this can be a couple of things. It can be having to choose or feeling the pressure of choosing between your business partnerships, balancing, juggling your business relationships with your romantic relationships. Or you could potentially be struggling, because the Swords is our intellect, it's our mind. So you could potentially be struggling with heart and mind, right? Like you might be, my heart really wants this, but logically I need to do this, right? And so you may be having a little bit of a difficulty, or just be mindful that this stuff can come up. This kind of energy can come up where you are struggling between heart and mind, right? That's very important. Another way that this can play out too, the 2 of Swords, is, it's about having to balance 2 things. It could be trying to figure out between 2 individuals here, trying to decipher or choose between 2 lovers, 2 romantic partners, maybe 2 business partners, 2 business contracts. So there's an emphasis just to be mindful, like what's more important right now? Do you want your mind, your logic to make the decision? Do you want the heart to make the decision? Is there a way to blend the 2? Is there a happy middle ground to have both? Because here's the thing, your heart is wanting to win out. Your heart wants to have the last word here, because the Queen of Cups is involved. The Queen of Cups is not little time. The Queen of Cups doesn't do lukewarm. The Queen of Cups puts her ass on the line. This is not, let's see how this will go. Let's try it out for a month and see how it goes. This is, no, I'm putting my entire freaking booty on the line. I'm committing to this joint venture, this business partnership, this relationship. So while you have all of this confusion, worry, concern, weighing the pros and the cons thing happening, the heart is going to eventually win out, Gemini, because there's a lot of energy coming off of this. Especially look at this Queen of Cups. This is not, out of all the decks that I have, like this one's like the real deal. I mean, they all are, obviously, but this one's, she's not kidding around. Look at that. This is soulful, bring it down from above type of energy. Feel it in my soul and my cells. Let me commune with another, right? Okay, so let's move on. 10th house. Okay, so the 10th house is about our business, our, well, that's more the 5th house, but if your career lives in the 10th house, so you're, in essence, your business can fall into your 10th house, right? So 10th house is career, it's our social standing in life, it's how other people see us, but differently from the first house. The first house is how they see our personality, our vitality, our physicality, where the 10th house is what others see in terms of our social standing, our social status. Like, are we employees? Are we a store owner? Are we an advocate, a leader, a politician? Like whatever, because even though it's a 10th house of career, it might not necessarily, depending on what point in your life you're in, what part of your journey you're in, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting paid for this. So you could, for example, have a job as a teacher, right? That can be your day-to-day job, but you have a social status in the 10th house of an advocate because you go out and you hold like rallies and you're known for that and you write about that. So even though you're not getting paid for that, it's not quote unquote it's your career, but it's like your social standing career. Because sometimes I think people get with astrology, people get bogged down with the concept of pay, like they define career if they're getting paid. And I'm here to tell you that that's not what the 10th house is about. The 10th house is not about the pay you receive. And sometimes people get confused or they don't believe that this other cause that they have that's so important to them lives in the 10th house because they don't get paid for it. And sometimes it minimizes the importance of that thing you're doing because, well, it's not a 10th house thing, but in reality it is. I hope that made sense and I didn't just go off on a rampage for no reason here. I hope like it actually made sense to someone. Anyway, going back to what I was saying earlier, in the 10th house, it's all those things. It can also be marriage or the loss of marriage, not because this 10th house symbolizes marriage, but because the 10th house is about our social standing, like I said before. So a divorce may potentially shift your status. It may change everything. A marriage could potentially change your social economic status as well, or not, or just depending on who your spouse hangs out with or who they are, it does have the power to change your status, either divorce or, so it's not the house of relationship divorce, but it can have some influence there. Okay. So you've got the 10 of Swords and Justice. So for some of you, you could potentially be dealing with a legal issue here in the house of career, in the 10th house of your social standing. You got you got Justice, which is all about legalities, balance, doing the right thing, cause and effect. So be very careful what things you're doing in regards to your career here. Make sure that what you're doing, the contracts that you're completing, especially the Justice, make sure that they're in the up and up. Make sure that you're being compliant with whatever rules you need to follow. That's very important. Because it's paired with the 10 of Swords. And the 10 of Swords is some heavy energy. See that? I mean, that's like, look at all those swords going. So depending on how you do this, it'll determine how bad this will be. This could either be the end of something heavy, like you may potentially go to court, go through a lawsuit that will bring an end, because the 10 of Swords is the end of something painful. So you could be dealing with finalizing some kind of legal issue or legal effort that has brought you so much pain and disharmony. And finally, it's going to be settled. On the flip side, though, when we see the Justice card, it's always, in addition to do the right thing, it's like a forewarning of make sure that the decisions you make regarding the 10th house, remember, because we're talking about the 10th house career, make sure that the things how you handle people, contracts, the decisions you make regarding your career, make sure that you are equipped. Make sure that you're on the up and up. Make sure that morale first, law and order first, just and right first, because this card always comes with its consequences, the cause and effect, right? So depending, this can either be the ending, how you do this can put an end to this, or how you do this can bring about this, right? So this is a little bit of a heads up, Gemini. Be very mindful. Be very mindful. I'm just taking a look at all your cards here. If you start any battles, make sure that you're ready for that battle. Make sure that whether it's a legal, I'm seeing it as a legal battle, by the way, but it's also words. It's also, this is also, I'm also getting the energy of, because we have swords so heavily involved here with justice, like slander, gossip. And again, remember, we keep coming back because a lot of that energy is very present right now. So be careful that you don't unintentionally slander someone or misrepresent someone, a company, a situation, a person. Be very careful that if you're going to bring someone against, you know, like if you feel that someone has done you wrong and you want it to be legally resolved, which you should, if, you know, there's a legal remedy for someone who's doing you wrong, totally get it. But make sure that you're really, that it's really fair, that it truly is something, a battle that you want to go through. And that it's truly just. And that you're not the one who's causing pain to someone unjustly. Okay? Okay. So we've got 1, 2, 3. And with justice, I'm going to count justice as swords. That's 4. By the way, justice is also can be associated with the sign of Libra. So that may mean someone for you in terms of your career sector. Queen of Cups can be for your 7th house here. Partnerships can be a water sign. So Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer. Doesn't have to be, but I'm just reading the signs. For your 4th house of home, the Queen of Swords can be, you know, air signs. So Libra, Gemini, another Gemini is yourself. And I'm not saying that these have to be about people, but it may mean something to you, okay? And 9 of Wands is fire. So in terms of that defiance that we were talking in the beginning, could have something to do with a fire sign, fire element. Again, it doesn't have to be, because I think that card is more about you and less about another individual. This is actually a really great read. Okay, so let's do a recap here. So first advice here for you, Gemini, is that be mindful that you're not blocking energy. You're not being defiant or blocking or putting up unnecessary boundaries. But if you need to put up your boundaries because someone has crossed them and they're not respecting you, what have you, very important. Otherwise, make sure you're not doing that. You're not blocking your yummy yummies from that solar eclipse we have going on. Movement. I felt very strongly when I came to the 4th house that a lot of you need to update your wills, your life insurance, your affairs, things to do with protecting your home life, your home, your family, your house, your property. If you haven't updated, you know, some of you are going to go into refinances, which a lot of people are going through right now. But for others of you, there's a big emphasis on travel and moving away and creating roots elsewhere. Allow yourself to feel. Allow your heart to win out, of course, balancing some logic. And we just covered the 10th house. Okay, Gemini, I hope this was helpful to you. If you require any if you require any clarification on any of this, please leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to respond. And happy birthday. Enjoy this entire solar return year. And I hope you come back next month for another reading, for other stuff. I have some cool things planned for the future. So I hope you subscribe if you haven't already done so. All right. Ciao.